Thank you.
Toda de nada.
No, de nada. De nada. In Hebrew, the equivalent of de nada in Hebrew is alo davar. It's okay, it's nothing. No, en baya is okay, but the closer translation, alo davar, it's nothing. But I decided that I don't want to say that anymore. I said, you're welcome. It's a positive statement. It's not that I don't mind doing it or I don't care or it's nothing. It's something. Right? Okay. De nada. Okay. Oh, another one. So, this is what's called a Torah-based meditation course. I didn't want to call it Jewish meditation. Because it's I'm based in the Torah, but I want to talk to everybody. I'm grounded in a certain tradition for the last 40 some odd years. And I decided to connect to it, and I love it, and I honor it, and I've gotten so much from it. And I try and be true to it because it involves my connection to great souls who I want to meet someday. Infiniteness. So it's not a Jewish trip per se. It's a universal thing through the focus of the Jewish teachings. And therefore, we can meet with others who have similar experiences, similar wisdom. But I stay grounded in mine, and I can meet with them from that place. I'm not defensive. I'm not threatened. I'm open to learning because I know who I am. I'm trying to distinguish between being something that's just for Jews, only for Jews. It's only Jews. It's exclusive or inclusive, right? So I tend to be more inclusive and want to share the good things that I found. The fact that we're coming towards a holiday that most of the world doesn't know about. Most of the world knows about Passover. But there's this 50 days following Passover that we're in right now. And today is the 35th day, which is 5 weeks. 7 times 5. We've gone 35 days since the beginning of what's called the counting of the Omer. And what's that about? It's really a very fascinating concept that goes back to an original thing that we did with a lot of people. We cut a sheaf. We gathered together and tied around a sash around a number of sheaves of barley. And we went out on the night after the first entire 24-hour day of Passover. Starts at the night, it ends in the night. That second night, we went out, a lot of people with torches and with instruments, and the sages were there, and the people were there, and they cut this omer, they cut this barley sheaf, and they waved it in 6 directions. And they made a big thing out of it. And then they took all of that barley the next morning to the temple, and they winnowed it. They got all the barley pearls, the barley, they're probably actually called pearls in Hebrew. What would be called a wheat berry, so a barley pearl. And they got them all, and then so they got them detached from the stalks, and then they put them on something with holes in it, and they roasted them. Not exactly like popcorn. They wouldn't pop, but they would get, you'd smell this and then they'd grind them, and then they'd put it through 13 sieves to get what the equivalent of what's called an omer, which is exactly the amount of food that each person was given during the 40 years in the desert. That's called an omer of manna, right? So the omer is actually a weight, a measure for one person for a day of eating. So they get it down to the pure flour, 13 times sieved of barley flour, and they'd offer that in the temple on the day after Passover. And the meanings and the associations and then that became that we don't do that anymore physically, but we count the 49 days from the moment that we would have cut the omer, and it's called the counting of the omer. And from that moment on, we're counting 49 days, and we're not counting the 50th day. That's outside of the counting itself. And the 50th day is the day we receive the Torah. That's answering Kaddish. Amen. So, the fact that we're 5 weeks into this counting and we're moving towards, and basically in 2 weeks and 1 day from tonight, actually 2 weeks from right now, we have the holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot means weeks, the fistful of weeks. And it's the 50th day after we left Egypt, and it was a group of a multitude of over 2.5 million people experienced prophecy. Physical reality changed right before our eyes. It was very scary. There were those who experienced it from a state of fear and those who experienced it from a state of ecstasy, because everybody's different, depending on where you're holding and what you're used to and what you think is real and what you know, right? And so it's described in 2 or 3 places in the Torah what this experience was about. So that's what I've given you as chapter 19 of Book of Exodus. Describes it. It's the first time it's described, as it's actually happening. And then later on, the Book of Deuteronomy, it's described in retrospect. I didn't bring that, but it all works together. It's an amazing description. And if we can get past the simple meaning or the superficial meaning of the verses, we can start to be there, so to speak, or get ready to be there. My idea of Shavuot at the end of the 50 days, last week we did a meditation on the concept of 50, because the symbolism of the number 50, and also the number 8. And basically it's the same thing. 7 times 7 plus 1 is 50, and 7 plus 1 is 8. So 8 being infinity turned on its side. So it's just like magnified a lot. But beyond that 50 is the same idea. The 7 is the 7 days of creation. It's the 6 directions of space, with the point in the middle being the point of 7. And the beautiful symbolism of that is that 7 represents spirituality within physicality. The 6 directions of space, up, down, north, west, east, south. 3-dimensional reality. The point of 7 is an invisible point. It's a core within physical reality of soul, of spirit, of nucleus, of spirituality. 8 represents transcendence. So 50 also. That's why we don't count the 50th day after Passover. It's not part of the counting. Passover itself is not part of the counting, nor is Shavuot. They're like 2 mountains, and then there's this valley in between, and that's when the counting takes place. The counting is within the framework of these 2 powerful days. but the days themselves are beyond, are not part of the counting. So the 50th day is seen as a crown of all the effort of the 49 days. And that's what we talked about a little bit last week, about how you do the work during the 49 and then you're gifted with anointed. You come home. Coming home and feeling that even during the level of the 49, even during the days of the counting, even during this world, when we're only doing the work and we don't have the full revelation of the light, that we're only building up towards it, but to know that it's actually the background, it's the context within which this world takes place, so we can access it. We're waiting for a major shift in consciousness. We're waiting for like powerful things to happen. But should we just wait and just like say, well, no, what's going to happen? And I don't know, it's getting late, and it's like things are, I don't know. Or do we say, connect to that inner level that's actually happening behind the scenes right now, and live that level right now, right? Talk about it in terms of Messiah. The Mashiach is about to come. Mashiach is about to come. The Messiah is coming. What should we do? Live Mashiach consciousness now. Don't wait until it happens. Be a vessel for it now. Make it real in your life now. Don't be immature about it and say, we got to do this, we got to do that. Mashiach's coming. We want it now, we want it now. We can't live anymore like this. That's not Mashiach. Right? It's very, very clear that it's dangerous to get crazy about Mashiach. Because Mashiach, it can't mean, that's not what it means. It has to mean a maturity attained by mankind, that we actually understand that what we've been living is a matrix existence, a dream, a fantasy, an illusion. Okay, there's real moments in it, and there's things we have to do here that are really very important, but we have to understand where it's all going and connect to that and live it now. So in that sense, meditation is that contact point with where we're going, so that I can live it now. I can make it my reality now. And if I do that, it's like building the Beit HaMikdash that will be built by the Mashiach. It's like building it now. It's like being part of the building of the very thing that I'm moving towards. And when I realize how essential, how connected that is, of course, that's what's being called for, is that we begin to build the Mikdash within ourselves now, and within our relationships now with each other, so that will manifest it in the physical world when it's time. And I'm not living then in a state of constant anticipation and becoming for what isn't. I'm living connected to what is and what will always be. Anybody want to interact on those things?
I have a thought from before. I also have learned that the counting of the Omer is also you count the Sefirot within. And I was also thinking like about the significance of the numbers of the Sefirot. Like if 8 and 7, like what is with the numbers of the Sefirot? Why those numbers?
Yeah. Basically the Sefirah counting that we do and that we connected to the Sefirot are all connected to the 7 lower Sefirot. And we don't even count the top 3. They're not even included in the counting. They are in the Kabbalistic framework, but for the people, on the level of what people can handle, even that's kind of a lot, is the 7 lower Sefirot, and each one of them has 7 aspects. So for instance, today was Malchut of Hod, and you can define what Hod is, and the personality that's associated with Hod, and you can find the energy or the frequency, the energetic quality of Hod or the qualities of Hod, and then that you go through from the first day of the week of Hod, you go from the Chesed and then the Gevurah, and you do through the different aspects of Hod until you get Malchut, which is you've really got it. Basically, you're going through this process where you're trying to, so to speak, make it I'm trying to make it mine. I'm trying to live it. An example of a hod was that a friend of a woman that we know had an appointment with her husband with another couple. And 3 days later, after the appointment, she realized, oh my goodness, I forgot. It was so embarrassing. So she said, oh, what am I going to do? In the old days, I would have called and made an excuse. Oh, well, like we were really busy and things were happening. She said, I can't do that anymore. I'm going to tell the truth. But if I tell the truth, then I just forgot. It just escaped us. Maybe she'll react. She and her husband will react, well, okay, well, if that's what you think about us, then, I don't care about you either. But she decided she has to do that. And of course, the response was very beautiful on the other end. And that something happened as a result of the fact that they didn't come, and it was okay. But hod is, I accept that hod is acceptance, is acquiescence to a reality that's bigger than me. Netzach is, I must do something to change things. The complement of Netzach is hod. It's called lohodot al ha'emet, to admit the truth. So that's a test. Some more for some and less for others. But it's like I accept that this is what I have to do, and I submit to it. I surrender to it in a sense. There's more to say about it, but so the lower seven sefirot are being spoken about. Really, what's happening is that we're channeling down the higher level, the higher three sefirot, into our these qualities within us. We're embodying these qualities. So this work of the 49 days is known to be a time of inner work, for sure. A time of inner work. And there's more to say, but what I want to do is to stand at Sinai now. In other words, I want to, so to speak, jump to the end. Did somebody forget? לא, תודה. Wow.
לא שלכם?
לא. Well, somebody forgot a telephone. Yikes. Okay, so we have in front of us, let's just try and look at it. In the 3rd month after the Israelites left Egypt, on the 1st of the month, they came to the desert of Sinai. They had departed from Rephidim and had arrived in the Sinai desert, camping in the wilderness. Israel camped opposite the mountain. So that verse in Hebrew, Vayichan, it's the end of verse 2 in the Hebrew. Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar. Again, Israel camped opposite the mountain. Actually, there. He left out the word there. Israel camped there, opposite the mountain. The verb is a singular verb. Vayichan Yisrael Sham. And Israel, as a singular entity, camped there, opposite the mountain. So it's a big thing that we say that it's the unity that we attained. Rashi says on that verse, Ki ish echad belev echad, like one man with one heart. So it's a very significant thing. It's very difficult to get Jews to agree on anything. Even now, certainly then, or even then, certainly now, whatever way we look at it, any huge number of people, any large conglomeration, one singular verb that we all camped together, right? So we make a big thing out of it. So just to kind of appreciate that. By the way, I usually start with some breathing. I jumped too quickly into this, so with all the cigarette smoke in the air, we will still try and breathe. But let's sit comfortably, sit with your feet on the floor and with your bottom of your spine tucked up snugly against the back of your chair so that your back is not leaning against the back of the chair, but comfortably holding yourself up without any tension or pressure in your spine or your shoulders or It's like really just using the chair to really put all of your weight on. Put your hands comfortably wherever you want, on your lap, on your knees, or anywhere you want. Sit straight. Oy vey, the cigarette smoke. So any kind of breathing with nose or mouth is fine. The point is to take some conscious breaths. Become aware of our breathing, what we've been doing the whole time, but this whole brings you back to yourself. Okay. Because really, ultimately, what we get to is to the mountain inside of us, the experience of that powerful unity within ourselves, all the different parts of ourselves around that mountain, that godly mountain. The mountain starts down at the bottom of our spine and goes all the way up, and includes the highest level of our unconsciousness. Sinai represents so much for us. If you don't mind, I'll speak, but I don't want you to stop breathing. I want you to concentrate more on that than what I'm saying. Accentuate the up, accentuate the down, the inhale, the exhale. Feel your body, feel your neck, feel your shoulders. Feel your stomach expanding when you inhale, your chest expanding. A lot of distractions can all become part of just one centered, focused meditation. In this room, it happens to be a very special room. We're in our bodies. We're in this formation with each other. We're in each of ourselves. Just kind of relax. Good. Everything flows. So even you're breathing down to a normal breathing, just maintain your awareness of it, and we'll come back to it. Every time coming back to our breathing. Sitting straight, but not so straight that it's mechanical, just very relaxed. Human. Breathing is a very human, wonderful, embodying thing. My philosophy is that spirituality is attained through the medium of our humanness. Not leaving our body, but our body becoming the entry to where we want to get. The amazing, miraculous operations that are going on inside of us, neurologically. The electrical system within us. The unified oceanic level that unites every single thing that's going on in every cell in our body with every other cell in our body. Just allow that to be real to you. Our brain floating in our skull, our spine going down and spreading down from our brain into our body, our nervous system touching every single limb, every single extremity. If we take different pictures of our bodies, one of the neurological system and one of the cardiological system, and one of the digestive system, and all these different systems, and we put them all together, and they all work together. Whoa, that's us, and that's not even all of who we are. We're a temple for a soul. We are all of humanity. We are all of creation in the stardust of our bodies. We're made of something very, very rarefied and beautiful. Physical being, the physical body itself, the skin of our bodies, the envelope within which we live, is an amazing spiritual physical envelope. We are both spiritual and physical, and we're not one or the other. It's not just our spirit living within our bodies. Our bodies are a spiritual container. The rabbis say that at Sinai, we saw the mountain become almost like a mirage, like a mirage in the desert. If you're in the desert, you've been there a while, and you see a mirage of an oasis, and you run towards it. Oh my goodness, there's nothing there. But here, there was something there. It just looked like a mirage. It looked, there was like an energy form, undulating energy. The mountain turned into an undulating energy form. And it was frightening to those who felt that the rug of the physical world was being pulled out from under their feet. But the Spirit of Hashem came down on Sinai. And so physicality gave way to the Spirit of Hashem. Because at its core, physicality is nothing but an energy form. I was going to say before also, the word Sinai, which is Samech Yud Nun Yud, is the gematria 60 and 10 is 70, and 50 and 10 is 60. So 60 and 70 is 130. And it's the gematria of the word slum. But if you pronounce it like that, it sounds kind of bad. It's sulam. But it's the main letters are Samech Lamed Mem. That's 60 and 30 and 40. 60 and 30 is 90, and 40 and 90 is 130. It's the same as Sinai. Sulam, a ladder, is the same gematria as Sinai. This connects the experience of Am Yisrael at Sinai as a collective experience with the singular, unique, private experience of Jacob when he saw a ladder. And the rabbis, very, very subtly, they say that the ladder is the spine. Spine that goes up into the head, into the higher parts of our brain. So again, our body is a temple, our body is Sinai, our body is a ladder. Our body is a complete system of sfirot, a complete system of worlds. We are a microcosm of all of creation. So the meditation for the moment, even though I'm speaking, please know that I'm speaking to you from kind of within my being, and asking you to let me, not take you away from your being, but to share at that level of being. The electrical level, the energetic level of being. When God comes down on Sinai, it's the soul coming down into the body. It's the Shekhinah, the divine presence, coming down into the temple, into the Mishkan that Moses made, into the temple that Solomon made. The divine presence comes down and it becomes a soul. Because the body, the temple, the sanctuary, the Mishkan, the mountain, the ladder, they are all the vessel that contains and becomes permeated on the inside and the outside by the soul that comes down to dwell within it. And it's nothing doesn't even do justice to who we are. It's just trying to somehow approximate in words. So keep breathing with this. Stretch if you need to. Be in your body fully. Be comfortable in your body. Feel your energy not just in your head, but going down into your neck and into your torso, into your shoulders, to the back of your shoulders, into the front of your chest. Energy flowing through you in circular fashion, down into your diaphragm, which is like wings. It comes up when you breathe in, and the wings go down, and you exhale. It's a living organ in the body, the diaphragm, down into your digestive tract, the stomach, and all that's going on down there, into your sexual organs. The energy all the way down from your head into your shoulders and into your chest and into your back and into your spine and into your stomach and into your sexual organs. Just flowing down. You can see it, you can experience it, you can feel it. Flow of energy, circulating, sharpening your inner vision. To your legs, your upper, your knees, your lower, your thighs, your feet, your ankles, your toes, your feet on the ground. And back up. Baruch Hashem, may Hashem, His essence, infiniteness, be drawn down, be revealed. Baruch Hashem Mevorach, He is the source of blessing, the Olam Vayed, into the darkness, into the hiddenness of this world. And we become witnesses, we become aware of that infiniteness flowing down into the world. We go up to the top of Sinai, up to the top of Jacob's ladder, up to the higher stories of our own building, up to the higher stratospheres of consciousness in ourself, and we access the higher consciousness of the cosmos, and we ask it to come down, to be drawn down from the top of our head, to the back of our head, to our forehead, to our nose, to our eyes, to our ears, imperceptible to the physical senses, but very clearly perceptible to the soul, drawing more soul into the body, into every part of our body, each cell of our body, into the deepest oceanic level of our bodies, flowing with the energy of the universe, of Hashem's light in the universe, becoming completely one with that energy. Baruch Hashem HaMevorach Le'olam Vayed, the words that they said in the minyan just now. Blessed is Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, there's no word for that. It's just He who is being, He who is the being of the universe, the isness of the universe that is deeper and deeper than anything that exists. That's why it's unchanging. It's everywhere, and it's everywhere. So Baruch Hashem, may it be blessed and drawn down and internalized, HaMevorach, that which is the source of all blessing, the olam bayit, into the world, into the olam that hides God seemingly, va'ed, and we become ed, we become witnesses to that flow of the energy, of universal energy within the world and in ourselves. So Sinai, in an annual level, when we go to Sinai and we stand at Sinai and we receive the Torah every year at Sinai, it's not just something that we received in the past. It's now ever new. It's a receiving station for more and more infiniteness down into the system of the finite, until the finite becomes so filled with the infinite that it can no longer stay finite. And yet it stays finite. And yet it's infinite. And it doesn't know what it is, because it just is. So that's what this teaching that I want to share with you, that's where I want to go with it. So please, let's just take a few breaths in the next minute and come back into open eyes and continue the meditative state, being together in a learning mode where we can actually now join with each other. But keep it for a moment with eyes closed, being really one with all the different layers of divinity, even the lower layer of sounds and of smells and of physicality. But behind all those lower layers are the amazing higher, upper, subtle layers that are here also. And really the purpose for me that I understand is what meditation is about is to do it like this whenever you want, whenever you can. But then when you open your eyes, it's still there. And we become carriers of this consciousness. And it's not an ego state. It's a pure state of self, connected to the higher self. And to be able to walk with that in this world is what Yisrael, Am Yisrael, is all about. With Sarah and Rivka and Rachel and Yaakov and Yitzhak and Avraham. That's who they were, and that's who Moshe was, and Yosef. And that we're connected to them. They're rooting for us. So let's open our eyes, come back, and let this be Sinai now. Sinai is a state of consciousness. So when we read the Torah, in the Hebrew for sure, but even we'll try and see it in English, okay? When we read the Torah wants to take us into Sinai consciousness. Right? This is the way, the place in the Torah where it wants to do that. So now verse 3 is Moshe went up to HaElokim. Wow. Moshe is a part of us. Oh, here. Moshe is an aspect of our soul. It's just because it's a male name doesn't mean that it's only for males. It's really Avraham, it's Sarah, it's Adam, it's Chava. It has many different names. It's consciousness itself. The Ari says that, and the Kabbalah says that Moshe is called Dat Pinimi, inner consciousness, or Dat Elyon, supernal consciousness. It's a point within us, and our job is to expand that point. Moshe basically is the essence of who we are. And when I point to who we are, I point here, our heart center. Moshe goes up to Sinai and really actually leaves the physical world and goes up into the supernal realms. The Talmud and the Gemara and Masechet Shabbos describes how he went up to heaven. And in the Zohar, it describes the angels that he met on the way and how frightening it was, and that he somehow was able to interact with them in such a way that they became his guides. The point of going up into heaven is so real in our tradition. You can't be a real human being unless you've gone up to heaven. and come back down with your Torah. So one of the things that the Talmud says in the Masechet Shabbat on page 88b is that Moshe had to argue with the angels. Not argue, he had to convince the angels that he was going to take the Torah down to the earth. And so he said, the angel said, "What's he doing up here? He's just a flesh and blood." And he said, "I came to get the Torah." And yet he said to Hashem, it's a dramatic scene. He said, "But I'm afraid of the breath of their mouths, that they'll burn me up with the breath of their mouths," the angels. Because they said, "What's he doing up here?" So Hashem said, "Answer them and tell them." "But I'm afraid." So he said, "Hold on to my throne." So Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says that the throne of God represents the level where our souls come from, which is a level above the level of the angels. Grab onto the throne, because the soul of a human being is higher than the angels, and give them the answer of why you, as a human being, need the Torah. You have to convince the angels why you have to get the Torah, God's teaching. And so he says, he gives this whole thing. And they acquiesce. Okay, you've convinced us. And all the angels give him a gift. It's like stories and stories. So Moshe going up to Elohim is a very, it's not just words. Hashem, and then there's this thing with God has different names. The rest of it, until the actual 10 Commandments at the beginning of verse 1 of chapter 20 of Exodus, all of this, now you'll see the name Hashem in here, which is Yud Ke Vav Ke in the Torah. But immediately when it starts, the 10 Commandments is Vaydaber Elohim et kol hadvarim ele, and God spoke all of these words, and the word Elohim is used. So the two names that are used here for God are Elohim and Hashem, and they represent two slightly different aspects of his relationship to us. Actually, there's a verse in Deuteronomy where it says, Adonai Hu HaElohim. The one that we call Yud Ke Vav Ke, which is the transcendent aspect, the infinite aspect, is the one who hides as the director and author of creation. We work backwards. Ha-Elohim is what we intuit. Is the one who's running the scenes of my life, the author of the scenes of my life, the one who is the one who interacts with creation and guides creation and governs creation. But that's not all that God is. God is, in a sense, the Kabbalists say that Kula Kameh Kila, all before him, in the presence of the infinite one, the infiniteness of the infinite one is as naught. All is as naught. It is as if nothing exists but God. But then Hashem, God, the infinite one, allows for the existence of a world, and then and has an immanent dwelling within this world, and that's called Elohim. There's not two gods. It's two names of God that try and get a different aspect of, just to tell us a little bit more about, like, whoa. Because Yud Ke Vav Ke is the ultimate name of God, and God is not even limited by that name. But it's a whole teaching, it's a whole course in itself of what God's names are about. Just wanted to point out that verse 3 says that Moshe went up to Elohim, and Hashem called to him from the mountain and said. It's not two authors, it's not two different stories, it's not anything crazy. The Torah knows that it's using different names, and it's using them for specific, and it knows what it's doing. And it just so happens that Hashem is written Yud and He and Vav and He, these four letters. And the gematria of Yud and He and Vav and He is 26. Okay? But when we read this name, what do we say? We see one thing and say another. Adonai. You say a bracha. It says right in front of you the letters of one thing, and you say something else. We're schizophrenic. From the time a child is 4 or 5 years old and says, yeah, no, the daddy says, the mommy says, the teacher says, don't say it like it's written. It's Adonai. So just to give you a clarity on that. So I like the vertical array of the name. But in the bottom hey is the name Adonai, which means my Lord. It's the bottom of a ladder. The ladder goes up. It's into total infiniteness. And therefore the meditative level, after we say this name, what we think is this. And there's a whole story here, as you can imagine. But again, Adonai is what we say, and then these letters are what we think. The gematria of Adonai is 65. So 26 and 65, work it out. Just do it from 65. 65 and 10 is 75, and 10 is 85, and 6? 91. So 91 is the gematria of a number of very special words. One of them is Ha-Elohim. So what we say and think when we do, we got very interesting relationships here. It just so happens that 91 is the combination of these two names, and it's exactly this name. And it works with others also. So it's a very mathematical system behind this. But let's go on. Hashem called to him from the mountain and said, this is what you must say to the family of Jacob and to tell the Israelites. Quote, you saw what I did in Egypt, carrying you on eagle's wings and bringing you to me. Now, if you obey me and keep my covenant, you shall be my special treasure among the nations, even though all the world is mine. You'll be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation to me. In other words, I want you to embody something in this world. I want you to walk in this world with this consciousness of infiniteness and embody that in the world. And Sinai is the place where you're going to get this. Because eventually, something I was going to say at the very beginning, eventually we're going to go to what I call the Sinai at the end of history. Because if it's just Sinai back then, it's a nice mountain. It was a wonderful experience. It really made us into a nation. It was awesome. But we're told that it's really only a hint of something up ahead, which has many names, the Messianic Age, etc. But one of them is, oh, that happened back then to give us a little hint of a universal, global, where everybody will be there. And it won't be just one mountain. You hear? So that's why this is so important, that every year we do this. And again, most people know about Pesach, but they don't know about Shavuot. And they don't know that we stay up all night on Shavuot. And that by the morning, if you've done it the right way, you're peaked. You go, there's a number of things to do, and how the prayers ascend into a very high level. So that's the set of pages that I've given you here is the Torah reading. The first two pages are the Torah reading, or part of the Torah reading, and the pages after that, which is where the numbers actually start, because I took two files and stapled them together, is Yecheskel, or Ezekiel's vision of the chariot. That's the prophetic reading on Shavuot morning. So it's too much to explain right now today, but because Judy, Rabbi Brott's wife, is leaving for the States at 8:45. And even though our class usually ends at 8:45, but she wants to really close the house at 8:45. So we're a little bit shorter tonight. But the point is that the Haftarah, the prophetic reading that comes after the Torah reading is Sinai. The Haftarah is Ezekiel's vision, what's called Ezekiel's vision of the chariot. So you have them. You have a little part of the Torah reading, and you have the entire prophetic reading with a little commentary, and you can't totally get the connection between the two, so the next few minutes I'll try and give you that. But again, it's an inner tradition. It's a prophetic transmission. What Judaism is about is a prophetic transmission of wisdom that's not just knowledge. It connects us to real experiences that have made profound differences in people's lives for millennia. It's not just a circle of going around every year and doing Shavuot. There's never been a Shavuot like this one because we're going in a spiral. So if we're going in a spiral, we come to a similar place in time that a certain light that shone back then shines again, but we get more every time. And it's not that we're just commemorating something in the past, we're moving towards something in the future. So really all the holidays have this idea behind it, is that it's a spiral and that nothing was ever the same as it is today. And yet a similar energy flowed down one day, 3,300 years ago, and we're picking up on that energy and picking up on stuff that was waiting to be revealed till today. It's a time release capsule. We're not finished yet. We're not only doing past. We're going future. And therefore, past and future come together in an incredible present. So these are moments when present opens up into eternal present. When we realize that we're at Sinai, we've never left Sinai. That we're in the temple, we never left the temple. That the level of consciousness that the temple was, that Sinai was, that all these things were, are still available to us. It's just that we're living in an external world where we experience things from the outside. But these teachings were meant to give us the access to the inner levels. So it's very exciting for me to know that, right? It goes on, and there, go to the second page, the top of the second page. It doesn't have a number on it, but it just starts with verse 16. The third day arrived. There was thunder and lightning in the morning, with a heavy cloud on the mountain, and an extremely loud blast of the ram's horn. It was not a ram's horn. It was a sound that we heard that sounded like if you would blow into a shofar, but nobody was blowing shofar, right? So the English is, again, it doesn't do. It was a universal sound that we were hearing because we were in that space. We were in the space. The world was totally quiet. The people in the camp trembled. Trembling means here we started to open up to the higher levels of our own being. Moshe led the people out of the camp toward the Elohim. Moshe led the people out of the camp. What's the verse? It's verse 17 in Hebrew is Vayotze Moshe et ha'am likrat ha'Elohim. I don't like the English translation. What I have here on the bottom is in Hebrew, it's a Rashi. What does it mean that Moshe Vayotze, he took the people forth. Vayotze Moshe took the people forth. Likrat ha'Elohim. What's the scene there? I did this at my wedding. It made so much beautiful. Is that Moshe was up here and the people were down here. Moshe went down to the people and came and walked with them towards the mountain. I was under the chuppah, my chuppah. My wife was walking with my mom and her mom. I walked with my dad, no, my uncle. My dad already passed away. I walked with my uncle and my father-in-law up to the chuppah. My wife was coming towards me down the aisle with her mom and my mom, and then the moms came up. I went back down and stood beside her and came up together. And I got it from this. That Moshe came down and went, and so what was Rashi say in the Hebrew? It's here, there's a little bolded thing in Hebrew, 1/3 of the way down the page, Likrat Elohim, to meet God. Mechilta, the sources of Mechilta. Magid she'ashchina yatsa likratam. It's telling us that the divine presence went forth to meet them. Kichatan hayotze likrat kala, like a groom going forth to meet his bride. And that's what it says later on in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33, Adonai misinai ba, that God came from Sinai. It doesn't say God came to Sinai. See, so to speak, the divine presence, even though it says here Moshe, it's very interesting. I can't do justice all of it. But just the point that we were all together in this amazing divine drama. And we were all in a transformed, transfixed state of consciousness. So whatever happens on the rest of the verses is really that. And then on Shavuot morning when we're reading it, so the whole reading of Torah every Shabbos is a reenactment of Sinai, right? It's really part of our lives. The shul becomes Sinai. The shul becomes the temple, because Moshe, he went up after the experience of the 2.5 million people, and he brought the tablets down, and he built a mikdash, a mishkan, and put the tablets in the middle of the mishkan in the Holy of Holies, and that became our heart center. So Sinai is up here. If you map the Torah onto our bodies, Sinai, as I go up to the top of my Sinai, I bring the Torah down, and I put it in the repository of my heart center, and I live with it here. And then Moses symbolically goes down to Egypt, because Moses is that inner point of godliness within us. He goes down to Egypt to redeem the children of Israel and to bring them up to the Mikdash, to Sinai, and back to the Mikdash. Right? This is our temple, the heart of our temple. This is the higher, right? And this is where we live, basically. But we need to keep going up. So that's what these words do to us on their inner level. I know it's hard to get to it, but I try to, okay? So we are Sinai, we are a ladder, we are a temple. We are an energetic system. We are in relationship to a world and to many levels of world. And the inner levels of this world are godliness itself. But even the table, and even the books, and even everything becomes right when we have the eyes. So I bless us all that we can, enjoy this internalization of this wisdom that Hashem has given us, become carriers of it, to walk with it proudly and humbly at the same time. Do what we need to do, be connected to our core and our center. I believe it's not something we have to convince ourselves about. We have to take away that which is stopping us from knowing, right? It's a different thing, but it's so important to do it that way. So, thank you, and I hope that we can meet again up the next stage. Okay? Okay. And I give these to you. I gift these to you, and I hope that you can read them, because there is some commentary in English on the other pages. It's not just all Hebrew. And if we come back next week, we'll continue with this. So, okay.
Thank you.
I was very happy when Greg took my invitation to write me after last class, and you wrote me, and I sent you something by email, because that's what I do. So if you don't take advantage of it, but if you do, okay, you're invited. I can give you my email and my phone number.